First of all, I would like to thank Femena for organizing this side event and for inviting Afghanistan in this timely debate on shrinking civic space. As a feminist, as a diaspora feminist activist, every night I go to bed in Ottawa, and in the mornings I wake up in the streets of Kabul. I wake up, I grab my phone, I open my Facebook, I go to the Kabul security page, and I check the security updates. First thing I do, I send a message to the family group that I have with my 6 siblings in Afghanistan. And I want to make sure that they are not one of the victims. They are and their children are not one of the victims of that day's attack or an incident. A year ago, I used to go to the office. And now we start our day with the morning meetings, morning online meetings. And before, between, and after the official meeting, I see my colleagues talking about their pets and the issues that they have with their pets, or the issues that they have with their children's leisure time. I am not able to connect myself with any of those topics that my colleagues are discussing. And that's because I do not mentally and psychologically exist where I physically live. And this is the story of a very privileged woman who lives in probably in the safest part of the world, except the minus 29-degree weather of Ottawa, which can be felt like 39 in some days of February and January. Can you imagine the stress or the psychological pressure that the recent negotiation with the Taliban brings on women nowadays in Afghanistan? I see that on the faces of my friends who are picking a battle every day, because there is one new battle every day to pick up in Afghanistan as a rights activist. The amount of pressure that I see on the face of my mother, who fought all her life to remain in Afghanistan and to serve the people that she loved. And I see that pressure on every single person that they are interviewed in different, even cultural shows and media in Afghanistan. What is security for Afghan women who are on the verge of losing almost everything that they had so far since 1919, or since the first women schools were established in Afghanistan? We are on the verge of, almost on the verge of losing all of them with the imposed peace process in Afghanistan. I think, again, I'm talking from a very privileged position, but I think security for Afghan women is the right of existence, the right of being included, the right of going to streets without justifying that presence in the streets of Kabul, Mazar Sharif, Nangarhar, Balkh, Takhar, or all these big cities. Women in the rural area, keep in mind that almost 70% of Afghan population live in rural areas, and they have in every rural area, there are different traditions, and civic space can have different meaning in different parts of Afghanistan. But when I'm talking here, I'm talking about the women in urban area. So civic space or security in civic space for a girl, and 30% of Afghan women in big cities of Afghanistan is waking up in the morning and not thinking about extra preparation for having 3 different layers, putting different layers to cover their cleavages. When they are going to school, when they are going to work, where they are going to out, just for shopping. I remember hearing from my mom a year back that she's not going to everyday walk in the morning because she was harassed on the streets. And she was asked that, well, mom, you're almost 60 years old, you're almost about to die. Why are you urging for, for living longer? Go home. So women are discouraged from walking on the streets for morning exercise. Women are discouraged when they are out after 6 o'clock in the evening. They're always in all, like all other contexts, they're always double victim when they are harassed physically for the way they appeared, for the way they're clothed. So in addition to all political development in Afghanistan, women are encountering a terrible burden of a social mindset in Afghanistan. And despite all the efforts that Afghan women movement put in place in the past 20 years, not much has changed. Afghan women have a very warm presence in social media. Not necessarily all of them with their real face on their Facebook profile. Some of them with flowers and so many other objects. But they have a very strong presence in social media. Last week or 2 weeks ago, they took Facebook and Twitter by storm. Fighting against the decision of Ministry of Education. And some of us sang the songs that we haven't sang for so long, including me. And we do not necessarily all have beautiful voices, but we expressed our protest through singing songs and protesting against that decision of Ministry of Education. This was one kind of activism that Afghan women in diaspora and inside Afghanistan are involved online. It's also not that as safe a space as we think. That's why you would see so many women from inside Afghanistan that they don't have their profile pictures of themselves. So it indicates what's going on. Plus we have very limited civic space in there too. We used to have a couple of big groups that we discussed about sexuality, but those group discussion did not last more than a year because although there was a system that only we allowed people that we knew or someone from our group knew about the person, but we found out that the intelligence services of Afghanistan got away to that group and, kind of traced our discussion, that what kind of discussion we have about sexuality. So now our debate about women's rights issue went back to the survival, to the basics of, women have the rights to be educated, so many things that is very basic. We are still very much involved. We don't talk about LGBTQ even amongst ourselves because we do not find the online space safe for ourselves too. So, or we limit, we actually even living in safest place in the world, we still limit ourselves to discuss about the very pressing issues that, women are suffering, but we're so much involved in the basics that we cannot go further and discuss about these pressing but advanced issues. So far, from the international community and regional players, we always had men representing as a negotiator. We would like to have presence of women from, from the big influencer for like United States to Turkey. I would like to have the Turkish women movement to pressure the government to have some from the, I know that they're mostly representing their political interests, but a woman on the negotiation table on behalf of their country to influence or to support the voice of Afghan women in this process. And I would also like the regional players, or I would like the feminist movement or the transnational feminist movement to to join the voice of Afghan women when we're planning to have a virtual gathering on the day that the negotiation is happening in Turkey. We would like to have everyone coming and joining that virtual space and support our voice. Canada is a very, a key player in G8, amongst G8 countries, and Canada's voice can be heard, although in the face of growing nationalism in the United States as the key player in international relations, Canada may not be able to say much, but still it's one of the key players in international relations. We would like I'm also partly Canadian, we would like all my Canadian fellows to pressure the government to support the stand of Afghan women in the peace process.